something that's set up to along the coast to show like trade routes would be way different than like a pirate's map showing like places that they can safely dock or leave their ship or things like that. And then if you want to go next level with it, my favorite type of map ever, Mini Moriarty, trying to make a map for a fantasy book series. Any tips? So the two things that I like a lot about, and keep in mind, I am not a prolific map maker at all. I just draw them for my games, and I guess I've gotten brave enough to start doing it on stream. Um, I like so for D&D, I'm beginning to really like kind of drawing these sort of icons, these points of interest. Um, but as like a prop or like as something in more of a narrative setting, and technically also in D&D, if I was to make a prop, I've done them like this. I think what makes maps really interesting is to think about who drew them and why. So rather than maps existing in this sort of like detached Lord of the Rings style map, which is technically a little bit of what I'm doing here, even though I'm really drawing something to enable a certain type of encounter. Um, there's room for those types of maps, and I don't mean to disparage them, but I think it's a lot more interesting to say like, okay, well, this is a map that was drawn in order to establish like clean boundary lines. So this is like a royal map versus somebody who's like, oh, this was a map drawn up by somebody trying to identify like ley lines across land. This is like a wizard's map, and so then what gets called out and what gets identified, and even the way that it's drawn can change. Something that's set up to along the coast to show like trade routes would be way different than like a pirate's map showing like places that they can safely dock or leave their ship or things like that. And then if you want to go next level with it, my favorite type of map ever, and that's why there's a map in a show called Dark that I want to replicate at some point on. I don't know if I'll find a reason to justify doing a stream. It's just a prop replica that I want to make for myself. I love when maps have multiple layers to them. So if we go back to that original, like the king drew up a map, but then let's say that map was found in like the orcs compound and they've redrawn like the territory they believe that they control and where they're moving in on the like excuse me, to see those layers of storytelling on a map, in my opinion, makes them like 1,000% more interesting, because you can sort of see the passage of time along with different people almost sort of like talking to each other through what they do to a map. And there's a map in that show Dark, which I highly recommend everybody. If you guys like any of my content, storytelling type of stuff that I really engage with, Dark is probably my favorite TV show of all time. And that's a map that gets handed around to different characters, and they all kind of leave their mark on it, and it's so fascinating. Yeah, so that'd be my recommendation. So Shiny, this is for my Tuesday night campaign. They are about to begin an arc traveling through hell, and so this is one of their ways that they can get to hell if they choose to. This is an old ruined, like I said, I'm sort of redrawing a map that I made a few years ago, hopefully slightly better than back then. And it was sort of a ruined town back then, and it's kind of further overgrown since then. Even less and less recognizable as a settlement. But it's the site of this particular gateway or doorway to hell that is being held open by these 3 runes. And the party will have the choice as to whether to go through, leaving the doorway open behind them, which is dangerous, or going through the effort to destroy these runes and the monsters guarding them to shut the gateway behind them, kind of sealing their way um, making it more difficult for them to come back from hell, but also keeping things safe. Yeah. So the encounter that I want to enable, and this is why I'm drawing the map. Normally, this type of map wouldn't be something that I draw, but this one and one that I want to use for tomorrow night, I'm gonna probably need to do another map drawing stream, I think. Sometimes there's just an encounter that I need a map for, and so the goal here is if they choose, and they might not, but if they choose to close the gateway behind them, the only way to do that, the only way to do that is to basically destroy these 3 runes and the monsters guarding them simultaneously. So the plan is to basically create this, overlay a grid on it. I'll do that digitally. That will make them far enough apart that because they basically have to destroy them within like 12 seconds, within like 2 rounds, which is going to be impossible. Otherwise, they can sort of reconstitute. So the party, which is only 4 people, is going to have to figure out, okay, how do we divide and conquer to make sure that all of these creatures can go down at the same time? Maybe they won't choose to do that, and this will all just be for naught. But you never know. Sometimes we prep things that don't get used, and that's okay. And don't worry about spoilers. My party knows not to not to spend time here.